What's up everyone, this is Tony with Journey Crypto. Welcome back to another video. So we have Bitcoin up around 6% this morning. It just broke $42,000. So even with the massive selling pressure from Grayscale, they're selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin every single morning. Even with that massive selling pressure from them and other whales, there's enough buying pressure to counter that and continue upwards. So we didn't really get the correction everyone is talking about, Bitcoin dropping to 30 to 35,000. That could still happen at some point, but there are some new bullish developments as well I do want to talk about that's going to greatly increase retail adoption over the next couple months. I do want to talk about Google Trend levels as well and why this is very important and where I see things headed and how you can use this to get ahead of the herd as well and do great in the crypto markets. So if we take a quick look at the Bitcoin chart, we can see the move upwards today is really the first move up we've had since the Bitcoin spot ETF approvals here, where Bitcoin was around $47,000, $48,000. So after that, it was pretty much just correcting downwards, which was expected. A lot of people that did buy to sell on this news, and Bitcoin was pretty much up 2x at that point, so that is expected. But now we are seeing a little move upwards, but that doesn't mean we're just going to continue upwards from here. There can still be a correction down to $30,000 to $35,000. That's where a lot of people think we are going to retest for a while before we actually continue moving upwards, getting closer to the Bitcoin halving in April. So just because we have this move up today and things are looking good, it doesn't mean we're out of the woods and we're going to continue upwards from here. Still very likely we continue having a correction and we do test 30 to 35,000 over the next month or two. But there is a couple bullish things here that are starting that will help retail interest start to rise. As long as retail interest is consistently rising, that means more buying pressure is coming into the markets, leading into the Bitcoin halving in April, where the supply is going to get cut as well. Those are multiple things that is taking a lot of supply out of the markets, and with demand rising at the same time, that does mean prices are going to go up overall. So this is massive news in my opinion. Google to permit Bitcoin and crypto ads starting January 29th. That's just in a few days from now. So this is massive. Google is the largest advertising platform online. This includes YouTube as well. So like we've been talking about, for the first time ever, all of these institutions are going to be spending millions of dollars to promote Bitcoin and crypto because they have products for this now, the Bitcoin spot ETF. We've seen over a dozen ads come out for this already between all these different companies. So the fact they're going to be able to start actually advertising through Google and YouTube with these, that is massive. And that means all of them are going to start competing. So this is going to start within the next week here. So this is much bigger than a lot of people expect. The previous bull markets, we didn't have this type of advertisement coming from these companies. And for the first time ever, they're all going to be competing for that ad spot and spending millions of dollars to promote Bitcoin and crypto, which will gradually over time increase retail demand, which will bring more people into the markets, take more Bitcoin out of supply with the Bitcoin halving coming, shrinking the supply even further. That is very bullish for the mid to long term. So I think this post is important from the CEO of Bitwise. They're the company that did the first Bitcoin spot ETF commercial. If you guys didn't see this, they did a great job on this and it got a few million views organically, being first to the market with that as well. So they're probably going to start putting millions into advertisement with these ads that they made, especially with that Google ad approval coming. So this post I think is pretty important. He said Bitcoin ETFs are starting the transition from the first inning to the second. First inning was the excitement of launch and investors who could move quickly doing so. Second inning is now the journey. Hundreds of meetings and conversations to help people thoughtfully consider the opportunity. Bitwise is a specialist. This is all we do. Excited about the conversations already underway and the weeks ahead. So I did talk about this a little bit. There's not just going to be a rush of massive demand with the Bitcoin spot ETF approvals. These companies are going to take time to convince their clients that Bitcoin is a worthy investment. They're going to start rolling out their ads over time. It's going to be a mid to long term thing, but overall it's going to have a massive effect on the crypto market. So this is just getting started in my opinion. This second inning is the important part. This is where retail adoption starts gradually rising. And this is what's going to have the massive effect on the crypto space in the mid to long term. Much bigger effect this will have than what he mentioned with the first inning, the excitement and the actual approvals themselves. So what actually matters from the Bitcoin spot ETFs is the actual adoption that comes from it, and that takes time. They're not going to get every single one of their clients to buy in the first week. It's going to take time, especially some of these people, they're skeptical on Bitcoin. They're just now hearing about it. They need to learn about it. They need to have these meetings. They need to do their proper research and due diligence. So it will take time, but over time, I do believe demand will be rising because of this, especially leading into the Bitcoin halving. So you can see there's a reply in this post as well from BlackRock, basically inviting their clients to a webinar, which was actually just a couple hours ago from the time of this video. So it says, join digital asset leaders from BlackRock for a follow-on discussion on what the newly launched Bitcoin ETFs mean for investors and advisors. Topics will include what makes this a pivotal moment for investors, insight from early market activity post-launch, deeper dive on iShares Bitcoin Trust, resources available to help educate. So they are actively trying to educate their existing clients. And with all the advertisement that's going to start between Google and YouTube over the next week here, gradually this is going to start picking up retail interest with bringing in a lot more money into the markets. So very bullish, like I said, for the mid to long term. So this morning, BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF now holds around $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. That's pretty massive. We're only a couple weeks in after the spot ETF approvals. This amount is going to gradually increase, like we saw with that webinar that was actually just this morning. Advertisements starting in the next few days. They're going to continue the webinars and promoting to their existing clients, while they're now going to start really pushing to retail interest, retail investors as well. So not just from BlackRock, but all these other companies as well, like Bitwise, Fidelity, all these other companies that are going to be doing the same, which they already have trillions of dollars between existing clients. Not only that, bringing in new clients through their advertisements. So very bullish in general. So like we've been saying, Grayscale adding massive selling pressure to the markets. How would the markets actually look right now if they weren't selling massive amounts of Bitcoin? But regardless, Bitcoin looking good today and not even having too big of a correction. That's actually pretty bullish in my opinion, because once this starts slowing down and that retail interest continues on a steady rise, we're just going to start moving up even quicker. So Grayscale has transferred over 100,000 Bitcoin now to Coinbase since the ETF approval, and they still hold around 500,000 Bitcoin. So is this going to slow down at any time soon? Is it going to matter even if they do continue moving that much? So I quickly want to go over Google Trend levels. I think this is very important. It gives you a good understanding of where we're currently at in the markets, the massive potential ahead, and how the flow of the markets work as well, how things, interest moves from one thing to the other, and how you can use this to your advantage. So if we take a look at the chart, we can see Bitcoin had its first major peak at the beginning of 2021 in January, where it did peak here at 87. And we can see crypto's first peak wasn't until beginning of February. So it took 1 month from the peak of Bitcoin for that to flow over into crypto. And then similarly, that also had another peak for Bitcoin. And then we saw the next crypto peak around the same time as the actual peak of retail interest for Bitcoin when it hit 100. So that's kind of the flow of the markets. Bitcoin and Ethereum will bring in all the new retail interest. And those new retail investors will start branching out, learning about altcoins and other stuff in the crypto space. It takes them a few weeks, but that's when the altcoins start picking up after we get the first major peak of the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other top 10 cryptos. So we can expect something similar to that. But we can see here currently, the crypto trend, it really hasn't moved much. It moved up a tiny bit with Bitcoin, but I really don't think we're going to get our major altcoin season until a few weeks after we get our first major peak like this for Bitcoin, which I do think that's coming maybe before the Bitcoin halving, but I do think by mid 2024, very possibly we're going to be seeing Bitcoin break previous all-time highs and hit new major retail interest levels. And of course, that will follow into crypto. So I really believe that trend levels and retail interest will be peaking higher at some point during this next bull market than it did in the previous bull markets. So we will be seeing these lines higher than this previous bull market, which also means a lot more people in the space being much larger overall and a much higher global market cap, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a lot of different altcoins breaking their previous all-time highs. So We haven't really had an altcoin season yet, and I don't think we will until we see a major peak for Bitcoin and Ethereum. But it's pretty much programmed with the Bitcoin halving coming up and all this other bullish stuff. So at some point throughout 2024, I do think we're going to get one of these major peaks, and that's really going to kick off the next bull market. So I really don't think we're even in this really bullish phase of the bull market at this point. With this recent peak, though, I do think that actually ignited the next bull market. So we're in the early phase of the bull market, in my opinion, where a lot of altcoins are still considered to be in a bear market. But as we get this first major peak, we're actually going to be seeing a lot of those altcoins go up a few 100% and more in a short period of time, especially as they launch their own new products and stuff. So I also want to add NFT to this because NFTs are newer. The last bull market was pretty much the first bull market they had, but we can see here it peaked out the first time. This is when CryptoPunks first had their first major surge back during the bull markets in March, April. Did level out a little bit, but then it hit its major peak in January of 2022. And that's when actually Bitcoin and crypto were entering their bear market. So that's pretty interesting. But I do think a similar flow is going to happen here. We're going to see Bitcoin and Ethereum being the first movers, followed by altcoins next, and then NFTs being last. But it also depends on the project that you're talking about, depending on what they're launching and doing. But NFT search trend overall, I do think will be peaking at some point with the crypto trend, a few weeks to a few months after the first couple major peaks for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I like to keep an eye on trend levels because it gives me a good idea of where we're currently at in the markets, the possibilities going forward as well. And like I said, I do think retail interest will be much higher in this next bull market for pretty much everything than it was in the last bull market. So crypto hardly having an uptrend in the past couple months. It's currently at a trend level of 8. If it gets back to 36 here where it peaked, or even higher, I do think a lot of these top 100 altcoins will be up 10x or more, depending on if they're launching bullish products and the demand for the project overall. But that gives us a good idea of how early we are, and we haven't even really had an altcoin season yet. With Bitcoin moving, I do think at some point in the next 6 months, we are going to have that first major peak here like we saw back in January of 2021. That's when massive retail interest starts entering, and it really starts, it's really going to start in the next couple weeks here with all these companies starting to run these ads and promote to their existing clients, leading into the Bitcoin halving, it being election year, stock market at all-time high, lots of bullish stuff happening overall. More accessible than it was in the last bull market as well. So I hope this gives you a good idea of how early we are into the bull markets. Still in the very early phase, in my opinion. We haven't even had an increase really in crypto or NFTs. Bitcoin is only just getting started. I do expect the first major peak for Bitcoin at some time in the next 3 to 6 months, where we likely will see new all-time highs for Bitcoin as well. So lots of bullish stuff happening here. Very excited for 2024. And if you are in the markets now, you're pretty much ahead of the herd. The only thing you really have to do now is do your research and find the good projects that have the highest potential, and make sure you have your entry and exit strategy in place and have a plan going forward. So if you guys want more regular updates from me, I do recommend following me over on Twitter at JRNYCrypto. There's also links in the video description. I do recommend following blocknews.com as well. This is our crypto NFT news website where we post breaking news. Pretty much anything that's happening that's important in the space is being posted as it happens, and then articles on the website and other socials as well. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys found it useful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.